In my heart, I should hate or anything like that. You took the life of an innocent little girl. Ain't nothing you do in life ever gonna change anything.
Sandra Renee Cantu was born March 8, 2001. At the age of 8, she was living with her mother, grandparents, and 3 older siblings at the Orchard Estates mobile home park in Tracy, California. Sandra was described as a happy, bubbly second-grade student at the Melville S. Jacobson Elementary School and enjoyed spending time with her friends in the trailer park. On a Friday evening, March 27, 2009, like many times before, Sandra headed out to a nearby friend's place to play before dinner time. A surveillance camera near Sandra's residence captured her skipping down the road by herself, wearing a pink Hello Kitty shirt and leggings, headed to her 5-year-old friend's home, which was about 5 trailers away. This would be the last time Sandra was ever seen alive. When dinner rolled around and Sandra was nowhere to be found, her mother, Maria Chavez, began searching the trailer park. She went door to door, hoping one of her neighbors might have seen her. By 8 p.m., with no sign of Sandra, she reported her daughter missing. While police were busy canvassing the trailer park for Sandra, Maria received an unexpected text message from the local Sunday school teacher and mother of the friend Sandra was going to visit, Melissa Huckaby. The text message read, "Tell the police that I had something stolen today around 4 p.m. I don't know if that makes a difference or not." However, Maria wasn't interested in the message at the time because she just wanted to find her daughter. The next day, the search expanded with more help from volunteers, police dogs, and divers searching the nearby river. Meanwhile, a vigil was held for Sandra while the search for her continued. During the vigil, a crying, very agitated Melissa approached police and FBI agents, saying she found a note on the ground. The note read, "Cantu locked in stolen suitcase, thrown in water on Bacchetti Road and Whitehall Road, witness." Melissa's behavior was odd to say the least, and detectives were definitely taking notice of it. Strangely, her behavior had quickly gone from frantic to calm after mentioning she was missing a suitcase. You know, the one she had texted Maria about on the night Sandra went missing. It was also strange that the note just happened to say that Sandra was locked in a stolen suitcase. While this made Melissa a suspect, she still wasn't high on their list, mainly because the FBI drew up a profile and it pointed more toward a white male between the ages of 20 and 40 with a history of sexual assaults. They honestly thought Melissa was just an attention seeker. On April 6, 2009, 10 days after Sandra went missing, farm workers draining an irrigation pond near Bacchetti Road and Whitehall Road found a black suitcase north of the trailer park. Inside were Sandra's remains. Melissa texted Sandra's grandmother when news broke about the suitcase and said, "That was fast. I hope they didn't find anything." Sandra was found with minor injuries to her lip and elbow and major injuries to her genitalia. Her killer had also given her Xanax, and the cause of death was ruled as homicidal asphyxiation. Early on in the investigation, detectives interviewed a local man who was seen inappropriately kissing Sandra on the lips 2 years earlier at a local swimming pool when she was only 6 years old. However, he was interviewed and cleared of any involvement. Sandra's father, Daniel Cantu, who had been apart from the family for about a year, was also questioned but was ruled out after his alibi checked out. After multiple male suspects were crossed off their list, they decided to take an even closer look at the evidence. This is when they realized that the initial FBI profile wasn't accurate because the evidence was suggesting the killer might actually be a female. As you might have guessed, this shot Melissa Huckaby straight to the top of the suspect list. In addition to the evidence, the police received a tip from a retired U.S. Marine and his wife who said they spotted Melissa in her SUV at the irrigation pond on their property between 5:30 p.m. and 6 p.m. before Sandra was reported missing. They recognized her on television and said on the night they saw her, she appeared to be distracted and in a hurry. When asked why she was in that location on the night of Sandra's disappearance, she responded that she went down the road because she had to pee. Good excuse, Melissa. I mean, really, is that the best you could come up with? Police continued to review the footage from the surveillance camera installed outside Sandra's home, which showed her walking toward Melissa's trailer at 3:45 p.m. on March 27th. 8 minutes later, the camera would capture Melissa's SUV driving in the opposite direction. At approximately the same time, Melissa called the trailer park manager to report that her suitcase had been stolen from her trailer. 85 minutes later, a surveillance camera located outside the church's parking lot where Melissa taught Sunday school captured her driving away from the church. 30 minutes later, she was captured returning to the church. It was during this 30-minute time frame that she was spotted at the irrigation pond. FBI agents searched the Clover Road Baptist Church and collected a silver rolling pin from the kitchen, which reportedly had a bloody smudge on it as well as a bent handle, and when tested, it matched Sandra's DNA. The suitcase Sandra was found in matched the description Melissa gave of her supposedly stolen suitcase. And the handwriting on the note that pointed out the location of the body was examined, and though it was disguised, it matched Melissa's handwriting. When Melissa was interrogated, she claimed it was a game of hide and seek gone wrong. She says she helped Sandra get in the suitcase and then took the suitcase to the church with the plan being to surprise her 5-year-old daughter. However, Melissa alleges that she forgot about Sandra and went on with her day as planned. When she finally remembered Sandra, she opened the suitcase and found that she was no longer breathing. Now in a panic, she chose to get rid of the suitcase instead of notifying authorities. The only problem with this story is that it conflicted with the evidence. Sandra's private part had been assaulted, and her injuries and DNA matched blood found on the rolling pin in the church. Also, Melissa's purse had a bottle of Xanax, the same drug that was found in Sandra's system. It was also determined that one of the blinds in the church had a missing cord that matched the cord used to tie the suitcase shut. Melissa had a history of mental illness, including bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, and schizophrenia. 2 days before the discovery of the suitcase, she swallowed a razor blade unconsciously while sleepwalking. She was actively receiving help until March 6, 3 weeks before Sandra's death. This case takes an interesting turn because Sandra wasn't the first person Melissa was accused of drugging. On March 2, 2009, Melissa drugged her boyfriend Daniel Plowman. Hours later, at about 1:30 a.m., Daniel was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. He had pulled his car into the drive-thru of a McDonald's about 5 minutes away from Melissa's mobile home. He ordered some food, paid for it, then passed out in the car. When he came to, still disoriented, he drove into a wall. No charges were ever brought against him for the incident. A month or two before this drugging incident took place, she took a friend of her daughter's to a park and was gone for 4 long hours, long enough for the girl's mother to report her missing. Eventually, Melissa showed back up with the girl. With everything seemingly fine, the mother decided to take her daughter to get some dinner. On the way there, the girl started slumping in her seat and began slurring her words. Concerned, her mother took a detour and rushed her to the hospital. Doctors would find that the little girl had Xanax in her system. After Melissa's arrest, she received charges for these other drugging incidents, but they were ultimately dropped as part of the plea bargain. The plea bargain allowed her to plead guilty to the first-degree murder and kidnapping of Sandra to avoid the death penalty, and instead she received life in prison without the possibility of parole. If these druggings weren't enough, Melissa was also accused of arson dating back to 2007. Evelyn Lloyd, who lived with Melissa for 8 months, said that strange things began happening around the house that she lived in for 12 years after Melissa moved in, such as electric cords cut, some of her clothes were bleached, and allegedly derogatory words were written on her bedroom door. On July 20th, 2007, a fire broke out in the house. After it was put out, authorities found a baby bottle with gasoline, a threatening letter, and newspapers stuffed in the side window of Evelyn's first-story room. Evelyn Lloyd was accused and arrested for setting the fire. While in jail, a second fire broke out at the home. Since Evelyn was in jail for allegedly setting the first fire, she couldn't be blamed for the second. This also led to the dismissal of the first case. To this day, Evelyn believes that Melissa was responsible for both fires and framed her for the first fire. I'll tell you this, there must be something in the water in Tracy, California, because on the same day that Melissa was in court to face charges, Jesse Lorente, who had been a substitute teacher in George Kelly Elementary School for the last 5 years, was in another courtroom in the same Superior Court facing charges for the molestation of a dozen children and for the possession of inappropriate child materials. Also, just months earlier in Tracy, California, is when 17-year-old emancipated Kyle Ramirez escaped his home to a nearby gym with a padlock chain around his ankle after being held captive and tortured for a long time by several adults in his life. If you haven't heard of this case, I definitely recommend heading over to Southern Girl Crime Stories and watching episode 137, where she goes into further detail. In the same city, there's also the case involving plastic surgeon Peter Chai, who was charged with sexually assaulting 8 female patients and commissioning a lewd act with a 16-year-old. I think it's safe to say that Tracy, California has definitely had a bad streak of luck when it comes to high-profile cases. As for Melissa, she stated she couldn't understand why she did such an awful thing, but she never revealed her true motive. Did she have a fascination with drugging people? What do y'all think? The FBI behavioral analyst who worked on the case, the Cantu family, hospital personnel, and Melissa's psychiatrist have all developed different theories to explain why Melissa murdered Sandra. All of these theories boil down to either jealousy, desperately seeking attention, lack of self-worth, or all of the above. Investigators have speculated that Melissa may have Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Some evidence of this is the fact that her own daughter had allegedly only attended school 50% of the time due to alleged continued illness. This could also explain why she was so willing to insert herself into the investigation. And what about the jealousy angle? Well, Melissa was unemployed and volunteered as a Sunday school teacher, and the theory is that she always saw Sandra wearing new clothes, something she couldn't afford to provide for her own daughter. Also, Melissa had criticized Sandra's mother Maria in the past, saying she was letting her daughter run around unsupervised. Let's be honest though, after hearing of Melissa's past, who do y'all think is actually the bad parent?